just show you the delivery volume which comes here on money.
Cost to income and cost to asset ratios are expected to go down. Okay.
ये देखो ICICI बैंक में
Access में
ICICI बैंक, HDFC बैंक, Axis,
Hmm.
IndusInd, SBI, all of them have so much of delivery volume yesterday.
Alright, so we
We're
are
live?
live on
Yes.
Bulls, Bear and Banter. आज बहुत important चीज़ें डिस्कस करने वाले हैं, especially from the IT and banking space. Wipro, of course, results के बारे में बात करेंगे. We'll also talk about IDFC First Bank. We'll also talk about Powell's comment on tariffs. And we'll also talk about some here and there moving pieces जो earnings आ रहे हैं. Waaree है, Infosys का results आज आने वाला है, उसके बारे में बात करेंगे. And we'll also talk about Sonata Software as to what's happening there.
Yes.
But we'll start with Wipro. You spoke to the management yesterday. Revenue largely flat है.
So the revenue came at the lower end of the guidance.
Right.
And the TCV, which is the total contract value, was decent. I think large deals were $1.8 billion and for total में around I think $4 billion का उनका TCV था. But it's not translating into revenues in Q1. And the guidance is -3.5 to -1.5, and they've been very muted in the kind of revenue guidance which they are given, and primarily because one of the transformation deals have come to a halt or a pause. That's what they are saying. And discretionary spend, especially in the BFSI, is slow now. So that's one of the reasons why they have not been very bullish on the Q1 revenues despite having a good TCV. Now, eventually, सब लोग street is now talking about कि भाई TCV का अभी कुछ लिंक नहीं है रहा रेवेन्यू से, क्योंकि आपको ऑर्डर मिलता है पर अगर रेवेन्यू में कन्वर्ट नहीं होता है तो फ़ायदा क्या है. बट द थिंग इज़ दैट इट्स स्टिल एन इंडिकेटर कि भाई आपके पास कितना ऑर्डर बुक है, एंड दैट्स नॉट रिफ्लेक्टिंग इन दैट. दे वर फ्लैट employee count, which is there year on year, attrition at 15%. They're not saying anything about wages. Wage hikes will happen by September, they hope, because last time they did it in September. Number of people they will take from a quarter to quarter basis, and they're not putting any number to it. So numbers are muted, and today we have Infi, which is coming in again. That's again the thing is that they will be talking on the commentary on discretionary spend and total TCV values which they will deliver. And उसके बेसिस पे हमको पता चलेगा कि क्या हो रहा है. So Monday is going to be an interesting day for us in that sense. But Mishi is joining us for banking, and there's a lot of things happening on banking. ICICI Bank, HDFC Bank, all hitting the roof. Mishi, मतलब पिछले एक हफ्ते से हम डिलीवरी में तो देख रहे हैं, और FI flows जो बाइंग हो रहा है 3 दिन से जो हो रहा है, उसमें भी फाइनेंशियल ही भरे हुए हैं और कुछ नहीं है. But today's IDFC, we had a chat with Vedyanathan.
Yes.
What's your take?
I mean, see, there was a point that you mentioned, which was the fact that they've been raising money over the last 3 years continuously at prices which are dropping, because of which, of course, there's a lot of stock dilution that is happening. Interesting response from him is that our return on equity is lower than the pace of our growth, so the ROE has to catch up, and that is why we have to keep raising funds. I mean, I don't understand how raising money at a lower valuation is supposed to help your ROE. But the argument that they're giving is that this is going to help in growth. They're promising a 20% growth. Now, if you were to look at IDFC First, because it's a smaller bank, 20% growth is actually less.
But you're talking about 20% growth on the book, right?
Correct.
Which means deposits or advances.
Advances.
Right?
Dono grown hai. Deposits, they've had good success, to be fair to them. That they've actually grown their deposit book quite strongly at a time when other banks have not been able to do that much. Alongside that, outside of microfinance, the rest of the business is looking okay. It's doing decently well. But the damage that MFI brings to the overall portfolio is a real problem, and that doesn't seem to be going off anywhere.
And from I understood from what he used to say was Q4 will be the peak in terms of the hit, because credit cost would be the highest.
So the current quarter results, when they come, are going to look
bad, and it will take another 3 quarters to taper down.
So by the time it's Q4 of FY26, that is March 2026, things will stabilize, is what he's saying, which is a very long time frame. Especially considering that microfinance, I mean, people are talking about stress going away, but I don't see any indication of that. The core of the problem, this is not an event-based default, right? Previously, you've had demonetization, you've had GST, you've had floods, droughts, all of these events which caused higher defaults, which of course taper off as time goes by, and it's in nobody's control.
Interestingly, what he is trying to say is that my bank is a very small bank, so it's the initial bank because merger happened in FY 1920, and uske baad we are still growing in a growing phase. All points.
I mean, you're supposed to be in a growing phase.
Yeah,
huh?
exactly.
Yeah.
My point is very simple, that shareholders look at either return on equity
Correct.
or you look at share price return.
Correct.
दोनों में आप deliver नहीं कर पा रहे हो और दोनों में आपका return on equity is currently around he says 7, but some of the brokerages are talking of 4.5, 5, which is there.
Well, that's because this year is bad for them.
Bad for them. But from 4.5, 5 to he's talking about 15. अगले 4 साल तक कोई ब्रोकरेज पेंसिल नहीं कर रहा है.
That's why he's not giving you a timeline.
I was asking for timeline, but they need. That's simple.
So he's not going to give you a timeline right now because it's impossible to predict the current flux that we're in. To your points about banks seeing a lot of buying action right now. The problem is that a lot of volatility is happening, and the buying mostly you're seeing majority of the buying is happening in top tier names. Your HDFC, ICICI, SBI. These guys are going to be doing well no matter what, no matter where the system is. HDFC, ICICI and SBI are not going to have they may not have stellar numbers, but they're not going to have terrible numbers ever. They will always outperform the broader sector simply because that's a machine that has been set. Irrespective of what happens in the market around them, they're still going to continue growing well. HDFC Bank, especially, last couple of years, we've seen after the merger got announced, 3 years mein, their deposit growth has not picked up as much, and that is a clear problem. That is why they're not able to grow their loan book. 5% according to the provisional numbers for this financial year, right? Year-on-year growth is about 5% and quarter-on-quarter 4% roughly. For an HDFC Bank, a 5% number is not great. You are used to a 15% growth.
We have been spoiled by that number.
Yes, we have been spoiled by that number. Now, the new management has not been able to achieve that number, partially because of the merger. A lot of energy will go behind ensuring back-end merger happens. Secondly, just on a financial CD ratio basis, your credit deposit ratio basis, if your deposit book is not as big as your credit book, which is what happened here, HDFC ka loans aa gaya, so your loan book suddenly became very big, and deposits were not matching that. So you went over 100%. So unless it comes down below 85, you are not going to be able to grow that fast. So yes, the speed is going to come down. Conversely, ICICI Bank is just on a roll. They have just been performing day in and day out significantly better than HDFC Bank, significantly better than most other banks actually. SBI is the only exemption because of the size, right? Size-wise, they're like bigger than ICICI plus HDFC combined. And still they're growing at 15-18%, which is amazing.
It is amazing. When we talk about some of the sector heavyweights, Mahima, we forget that the kind of base they're sitting
Correct.
in, right? Like in IT, we talk about TCS, and we say TCS is growing at X rate versus an Infosys versus a Wipro and versus others, right? Now the differential in revenue between TCS and Infosys is around $10.5 billion.
Correct.
Right.
And it has widened over a period of last 10 years.
Correct.
1.5 billion था 10 साल पहले, अभी 10.5 billion का difference हो गया. Same in the case of SBI. Even if you grow at 5%,
you are still going to
you'll be
adding a small private bank every year into your portfolio, which is crazy.
So that we sometimes forget.
The size.
Percentages sometimes are misleading in that sense, and the size that matters, and whether the internal machinery is in such a way that when it moves, it's just like it has a multiplier effect or not. That's what.
And SBI specifically, right? I mean, they're called the bellwether bank for a reason, because whatever happens at SBI is basically happening in your economy. If your economy is not performing well, SBI doesn't perform well. Same thing.
To be fair, these three, ICICI, HDFC and SBI, have been performing well in terms of pricing as well. the results are coming out on Saturday,
Correct.
right?
HDFC, ICICI is coming back.
Coming out.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a hectic weekend for you in that sense.
I mean,
and
I've advised
it's
banks
a
to
long
stop doing the Saturday result announcement.
Especially
क्यों
long
करते हैं
weekends.
पता
Especially
क्यों
long-
करते हैं 3-day weekend and उसके बीच में आ गया result
Saturday
Saturday को. So now it's just I have to not go out anywhere. But anyway, the numbers will come out I think Saturday afternoonish. दोपहर तक.
क्या लग रहा है?
I mean, they're looking good at this point in time. At least the provisional numbers are looking good for HDFC Bank. Interestingly, Yes Bank is also coming out with the result on the same day. Okay, a lot of attention goes away.
Yeah, but Yes Bank again is suffering from a lot of dilution that happened because of the restructuring, right?
Also, the problem of ROA, their return on assets are still below 1%, despite 5 years of reconstruction going on, right? FY20 se chal raha hai reconstruction. Now this is the end of FY25 quarter that you're going to report results, and you've still not reached the levels that are doing well. Retail, they're pushing hard on retail, but that is not reflecting in ROA, which means that either you are going only after very, very safe assets, or you are going at low yielding but high risk assets, thinking that this will improve your capability of lending more to higher risky assets, which will then, of course, hopefully bring ROAs later. The banks also had a huge sort of reshuffle in the senior management at the bank. Senior managers some of the senior managers have been asked to leave. They're reorganizing the way the bank functions. Basically, branch level decision making जो है उसको उठा के उसको centralize कर रहे हैं. So their hope is that this will turn around the bank. And give
they
them
want
more
much more
profitability.
control on the branch activities basically.
Because they want to push up profitability.
Yes.
That is a problem at this bank.
Next year, I think next week actually, we will see some of the consumer sectors coming out,
Yes,
right?
there will be HUL, Nestle coming out with their numbers.
क्या लग रहा है?
जितना अच्छा बैंक लग रहा है उतना खराब I think consumption लग रहा है. And it's unfortunate. I mean, we are talking कि भाई Q1 FY26 things will improve because of tax cut and everything, but Q4 definitely not looking very nice for staples. Urban demand slowdown continues, inflationary pressure continues, उसकी वजह से price hikes जा रहे हैं. Price hikes की वजह से it's like a vicious circle. Price hikes ले रहे हैं, उसकी वजह से volumes कम जा रहे हैं, volume की वजह से revenue पे impact आ रहा है, and
But
price hikes are not
important
even
change which is coming in here is the raw material prices are now cooling off.
cooling off. Yes.
So price hikes जो जितना वो pass on नहीं कर पा रहे थे, I think they can
वो
absorb
That's
it
also
now.
visible in the inflation numbers that are coming out, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
CPI, WPI both are significantly lower. CPI came at 67 month low, 5.5 year low.
Pre-COVID level पे चले गए.
अभी तो
Yes.
2019
So
का.
hopefully Q1 will paint a better picture, but Q4 I think will still, क्योंकि business updates में भी पता चल रहा है कि low single digit के volume growth
So
indicate हो
दो
रहे
चीज़ है ना, आपके monsoons normal होने वाले हैं, and second आपके food prices in April itself has fallen. So I think someone was mentioning, one of the reports mentioned that April inflation will be at 2.9% or something.
Correct.
So that's something which is good for that leaves us a room for another 25 bits cut which is coming in.
Correct.
I mean,
Plus your tax rate cut.
You're already also
that will
seeing
also have around 8,000 rupees.
also seeing broader interest rates come down in the economy, right? HDFC, ICICI, Axis, the three big private guys. Today, Federal also came in. All of them have cut the savings account rate.
Yes.
A bank does not cut savings account rate unless you have reached a situation where they're like, अभी मेरे को नहीं चाहिए deposit. मतलब like मेरे पास है. Now even if fewer deposits come in, I am fine.
Either I have enough
Liquidity,
advances, meeting the advances target,
or
अगर मेरे पास advances ज़्यादा हो रहे हैं तो मैं नहीं करूँगा.
Correct. So no, at this stage, so CASA is the main thing, right? Because that is the lowest cost deposit that you are going to raise versus an FD, which is a higher cost deposit that you're going to raise, right? If the broader indication is that interest rates in the economy are coming down, the banks will say, I don't need to pay so much to the depositor, so I will start cutting. What that will do is add to the MCLR cost, or the marginal cost-based lending. By the time that happens, it will be 6 months or so. By the time
लग जाता है.
2 quarters it takes, irrespective of where the bank is, because it's a blended cost, right? So basically, your incremental deposits at the lower rate have to add up to a level which then shows up in your overall cost, which then allows you to cut down the lending rate.
In short, if someone has an EMI and they have an MCLR,
Yeah.
they should look at the rate at which the MCLR rate
Yeah.
is and the EBLR rate.
Correct.
And if EBLR rate is lower than the MCLR, they should switch
Yeah,
to
but
EBLR.
some people have burnt their fingers when the rate cycle suddenly
But
turned.
now we expect at least
Yeah.
next 2 years to recycle.
For now, at least that is the outlook that you will see interest rates lower.
I think in fact people also are confused कि now that the rate cut has happened, they want to know कि भाई loan का tenure मतलब tenure कम करना चाहिए या EMI बढ़ाना चाहिए. What should be the course of action? I think EMI बढ़ाना is a better option या tenure कम करना is a better option.
जितना जल्दी आप लोन से निकलो उतना अच्छा है ना. You will
हाँ,
own
so
the asset
if
that
you're
much
in the
sooner.
early stages of
Ideally.
loan, I think it is better if your tenure gets
Correct,
lowered.
reduced.
But if you're in the end part of your repaying loan, then I think EMI
Yeah, because-
amount बढ़ाना is
Because at
better.
the end of the day, the only thing that your extending tenure does is it brings down your average
Correct.
EMI, right? But for a longer period of time, you are indebted to the bank,
Right.
and
And you end up paying more.
you end up paying more in interest. It adds up, right?
Exactly.
So it's always going to be smarter to get out of the loan as soon as you can, save money if you can, and then clear off a chunk of your loans.
Right.
That's the
Also,
best
we
way.
are waiting for 50 likes to hit so that we can start taking all your questions.
50 भी नहीं हुए तक करो यार जल्दी.
All right. Waaree Renewables is also another outlier
I
today.
think, yeah, but I think numbers were pretty much good. Yeah.
76% EPC sales बढ़ा है,
बढ़ा है.
38% order book growth. So
And
good numbers.
Good numbers है और I think the stock is also doing well, right? If I
Yeah, the
haven't
stock
seen
is also doing well.
But what I'm surprised is with the Nifty numbers.
Yes.
Nifty, which is 1.3% up.
Bounced back.
Yeah. IT is down. IT has actually come off from day's low.
Yes.
It's actually
It's come.
1.9.
It was down almost 2% at some given point of time.
So it's
come off.
It's from day's low. It's up nearly 1.9%, and Nifty Bank is at 1.76%. So it shows, normally in a longer weekend, what we have seen earlier is that people try to cut the positions, unwind positions because हमको मालूम नहीं है.
Gap up, gap down क्या होगा?
Gap down नहीं है. Especially yesterday के बाद, yesterday markets were down because tech stocks were down, and then Powell came and warned about that he may not be able to manage both growth and
Correct.
inflation.
Inflation.
And unemployment and inflation can go out of hand. That's what he was talking about.
Right.
But I think because this weekend is a global holiday weekend. Let me put it this way, not just Indian holiday.
Good.
Yeah.
I think people
Easter
are
weekend.
Easter
Mm.
weekend, so people are going to be little bit of means 1.73%, which means banking index is up.
Yeah.
It's crazy how buying is coming towards the afternoon, which is institutions which are coming in there. And broader markets are not doing much, not bad actually in that sense. But एक और चीज जो है
Sonata Software.
Sonata Software came out of the
Microsoft.
warning.
Yes.
Simple as that. Means it's one of the first casualty of what's happening in the US.
Correct.
Big deal has come to a pause, or the spends are not going on, and I think and we are assuming that it's Microsoft, and उसके वजह से I think LTI, Mindtree and others are also persistent, both who are clients or who are vendors for them in India. They are also facing issues with respect to them. So that's one of the things which is coming in, right? Discretionary spends कम होंगे तो Indian IT will be hit badly, and that's why we're seeing a lot of pain coming into there. It's not that the numbers are bad. It's basically you look at the numbers with the perspective of what's happening behind it, and there is a lot of uncertainty which comes in. So first half, which is supposed to be the best half for IT companies, Q1 and Q2, because Q3 में your furloughs and Q4 again year end होता है, तो वहाँ पर first half is going to be almost a washout for Q1. For IT companies. We said the same thing for banking.
That is true.
Last year.
First half, a washout here.
But towards the end, we are seeing
banks doing well.
Banks doing well in the first half because the rate cycle has suddenly, pushing.
And plus, it's one of the best domestic plays also, right now.
Yes.
Plus, sitting at such low valuations.
Yeah. So now it's inward looking, right? Means what are we? How are we going to push? And domestic demand है, capex है, rate cycle नीचे आ रहा है, and all these are going to push private capex also coming into play. Means you will see private capex we're talking about private capex.
With that will come risk. Yeah,
Correct.
because you are going to in every upcycle you are going to make mistakes in
that
underwriting.
is true, but the point is that लीप ऑफ फेथ लोगे तो रिस्क भी लेना पड़ेगा आपको, राइट? एंड दैट कम्स टू दी व्हेन द फ्रॉथ स्टार्ट्स कमिंग। शुरुआत में नहीं होने वाला है वो, अगले एक डेढ़ साल में नहीं होगा, मे बी सेकंड ईयर ऑनवर्ड्स शुरू हो जाएगा वो।
विद सिचुएशंस लाइक जेंसॉल आपको दिख रहा है ना फ्रॉड, मतलब है मार्केट में।
जेंसॉल इज अनदर केस वेयर इट इज देयर।
ABB is also in focus, in
yes,
fact.
numbers where
global के
the
number
global
आए।
guidance, especially on India, 1% growth की बात
1%, जबकि negative 6% expected था, but 1% आया है।
So basically,
stock
capex cycle is turning around for them as well, right? In that sense, so इसलिए
overall even revenues are up 3% for the global scenario. Margins have significantly improved, 17.9 to what 20.2 somewhere.
We'll see that happening in India
as well.
The Q4 numbers of India business.
And even in terms of the overall growth also in terms of India, it was negative, which is now turned positive. So that is why the stock is also reacting positively.
I have a question for you. I mean, there's a question Shiv Shakti is asking. Reliance retail pay, your views on the slowdown seen in Reliance retail growth, and is it mid or long term? Can it just be down to the management's ineffective digital push?
Maybe. In fact, now they are working towards their digital push overall, अगर Reliance Retail का देखें. But I think the well-established players which are already there, in terms of your trend, which are doing so well. Plus, Reliance Retail also focuses on your tier 2, tier 3 cities, जहाँ पे all of these V2 Retail, V-Mart Retail, Vishal Megamart are doing so well that and that is even in terms of price points as well. So they are offering you good quality at good price points, which is why I think people are moving more towards those stores rather than going to Reliance Retail. Over and above that, I think the kind of competition also that is coming in from these players, it is very difficult to, I think, for Reliance to scale after a given point of time. डिजिटल ये लोग नहीं कर रहे हैं, सो अगर डिजिटल पुश रिलायंस रिटेल स्टार्ट करता है,
एजियो नहीं होता, एजियो तो है ना,
एजियो है, रिलायंस करता है। आई एम सेइंग ये जो टियर 2 टियर 3 सिटीज वाले हैं वो अभी नहीं कर रहे हैं। एंड आई हैव स्पोकन टू देम सो मेनी टाइम्स एंड दे सेड दैट दे वांट टू फॉलो द ब्रिक एंड मॉर्टर मॉडल बिकॉज़ एट द प्राइस पॉइंट्स एट व्हिच दे आर ऑपरेट
rupees you can get 3 pieces of
correct.
So and at that price point they cannot go online. For them it is not cost effective.
So just tell me this, because I think Reliance Retail also does groceries and food,
Correct,
right?
correct.
Does Q-commerce have a big impact on that as well?
100%.
Yeah.
We've seen that impact in Smart Bazaar as well.
Okay.
We've seen that in Avenue Supermarts as well.
Okay.
So Reliance Retail 100%. And I've seen Reliance Retail shutting down a lot of their stores as well.
That's a
Reliance
consolidation
Fresh.
which is happening.
Correct.
Yes.
But also the fact that there is a higher discount now. These hypermarts are giving out, right?
Correct.
Like Avenue, D-Mart दे रहा है, Reliance दे रहा है. So if you are looking at those brokerage notes which are coming on a periodic basis, which compare kind of discounts which are given by quick commerce versus some of the big retails which are there, D-Mart is still giving a higher discount.
That's D-Mart ready, yes.
Divas ready and all others, which is giving a higher thing. So it is happening. The growth of quick commerce is going to be there. Now question is that can they sustain? We are talking of 3 quarters of pain for all the quick commerce companies. 3 quarter के बाद कौन से survive करेंगे? That is the question.
And I think the large players will.
That is always the case, na? But after that,
large players
Because
will survive. But by the time
at the
they
cost
have,
of what?
No, at the cost of what? But by that time they would have extinguished their cash.
Correct.
So last round was raised on the back of quick commerce, and when they finish the cash, how will they come with cash flow? Because these 3 quarters have to coincide with cash flow generation as well from operations,
Right.
which is there.
And especially for Zomato, I mean, listing ही इसलिए हुआ था क्योंकि they were sitting on what 2 months of cash.
yeah.
And उसके बाद again they've raised right now what 7,500. They're right now sitting on what 70,000, 8,000 crores of cash right now. So once that gets over, we'll have to see as to how.
And the
they
latest
sustain themselves.
latest raise by Zomato was on 7,500 was for quick commerce. Arun Ravi Chandran.
Yes.
I think I'm spelling it right, right?
Yes, Ravi Chandran. Gold prices
will reduce
in future.
क्या लगता है? You speaking to a lot of gold finance companies, ना?
कुछ पता नहीं है सर अभी फिलहाल सी the prices have run up significantly, right? There's always going to be the risk of
and couple of
coming
reports
down.
are talking about $4,000 or something by mid of next year.
So yes, there is a risk of it coming down, but to what extent, how much, and all, I mean, it's very difficult to predict at this point in time because there is a general risk of sentiment that is there in global finance, which automatically means your gold gets a push. But let's say the US actually turns around economically, right? Macroeconomic situation in the US suddenly becomes better than what is the worst expected, which is now a recession. And even if you don't go into recession, that is going to be a big push. Then you will
Tell
start.
me one thing. We've been looking at this ETF, gold ETF data for the last couple of weeks and months. We are not seeing much of an inflow into ETFs, but gold prices are going up.
Yeah.
And at the same time, we are seeing central banks stocking up gold.
Correct.
Whether PBOC, RBI का data भी ये बताता होगा कि
Correct.
they are
stocking up.
They are stocking gold. Now, if the prices fall, what is the kind of impact that will happen on the economy or on the central bank?
See, as far as the central bank balance sheet is concerned, usually it's a cumulative, right? So your foreign exchange, your foreign exchange plus gold hota hai. So if gold goes down, typically foreign exchange valuation goes up. So net it gets extinguished, whatever impact is. Now, are we talking about a crisis scenario where gold prices absolutely crash? Then that's a different problem, and I don't think anybody's prepared for that.
Central banks don't revalue it every year, right?
No, they don't.
They keep it at book value.
No, they keep it at book value, but then they do mark to market. वो हर साल होता है, regularly होता है. Not I won't say हर साल, but regularly होता है, so that they're able to value their reserves better. And usually gold and forex keeps sort of adjusting against each other.
Right.
So yeah.
So today we have a couple of questions for Vishy actually.
Yeah. So
Are HDFC and ICICI overvalued after recent rally at today's price? Will even a slight slowdown in advances on Q4 results cause a correction?
No, but so okay. To be fair, the slowdown in Q4 is not the focus. The focus is what the commentary or the trajectory is going to look like in the next financial year. I mean, I'm talking about FY26, which has already started now. What things are looking like right now, typically when the rates go down so sharply, you will see a resumption in lending and that will adjust. So even if Q4 is not as rosy as one would have expected, FY26 promises to be a better year than FY25, which was already towards the later half of the year, which was already turning out to be a good year. FY26 is expected to be better. So if that is the case, then things will look better for banks. Whether it's overpriced or not, I am not qualified to make that call.
Okay, but do you think that has started getting priced in already?
I mean, it could be.
Right?
That is potentially why you're seeing the level of buying over the last few days, because the year has already started and we don't see a turnaround in the rate cycle ekdam se, because that'll be disastrous for the credibility of the RBI, right? So the RBI and the MPC are very cautiously moving towards a lower interest rate regime. They have only now changed the stance. For them to go back to neutral, it will be a while more.
Okay. Devanshu Kumar has an interesting question. He wants to know which is better placed right now, your financial banks, NBFC, home finance or small finance bank?
In the order.
Small finance banks are always going to be at the bottom of my pecking order. I think they're a high risk, high reward play. But unfortunately, a lot of banks within that SFB universe are not doing that well. There may be one or two banks, which AU Small Finance Bank is one exception, which is reasonably well, comparatively well, I would say, not reasonably. Comparatively, they're doing better. The other banks are not doing that well. You've got the microfinance universe, which is still reeling under the pressure. And remember, most SFBs were originally microfinance companies, so that is still the core of their business. So they are not doing that well. Take them out of the picture. You look at the NBFC and the housing finance market. Now there, people are expecting, most analysts are expecting a good year in FY26. Okay. Simply because the cost of funding comes down, because interest rates are lower in the economy.
Correct.
And NBFC is a better place to take over that the loan demand in far-fetched areas, right? Plus the RBI has opened up the co-lending arrangement a little bit more. So that's advantage for NBFCs. Take the gold loan NBFC universe. Now, last week the RBI, after the policy, came out with a set of guidelines for gold loan finance. Now, most gold loan finance guys are talking about that being a good thing for them, because now there is a legitimate set of rules that how things should work. So
give parity with the banks, right?
Yeah, plus chances of accidents become lower, because if the RBI has put everything in black and white, now if you are in breach of the guidelines, that's a call that you have taken as a company to breach the guidelines, right? Most companies don't take that. They work within the RBI's sort of limits. So for them, that's a good thing. I think banks are better placed than NBFCs personally, simply because if there is a capex cycle, banks are going to be the ones that are going to be driving it. Your NBFCs are not as geared.
Do you think
to
banks,
take that.
NBFCs, or maybe in the financial space, we will see more of these companies coming and raising capital now because we are in the cusp of growth or advanced growth?
Yeah, so
we saw IDFC doing it today.
Axis also doing
हमने
it.
कुछ
Sure.
PSU banks को भी देखा last 3
couple of
Correct.
months ago, but that was more towards that was more towards government shareholding there to bring
but also
down.
there's a fresh capital which came out, right?
Correct. That is true. So the thing that I'm looking at this point in time is are banks also seeing what we are seeing, which is a growth cycle, and B, how are they placed on capital right now for them to raise more? So a couple of months ago when we were looking at the capital adequacy ratios of banks after the December quarter results, most of them are significantly above the regulatory minimum. So they are sitting on a lot of capital. The only thing that can spoil this party is if there is an issue that suddenly props up in one of the larger banks, which is maybe an isolated incident, but general sentiment then goes down, and then markets are not going to give them the money that they want.
So Venkat has that question next.
Yeah.
IndusInd.
So with what happens with the IndusInd Bank issue?
Now
We
can we
invest
buy?
in it now? Is it right time to, or we should wait for more? I'm not talking from a point of a pricing part of it, but from a fundamental point of view, what is your view?
I think there's more left. There is a Grant Thornton report that is expected, guys. Let's not forget that the report that came on 15th was a report that was initiated by the management, right? And that report only focused on what is the size of the impact and whether there was a discrepancy in the portfolio.
And only till June end.
June end.
June के बाद ही तो सबसे ज़्यादा financial market.
The crux of the issue, and the issue with IndusInd Bank has never been the amount that has been at risk. I don't think, which is why we kept saying that IndusInd Bank is safe fundamentally.
Should we believe that this is only the extent of the issue, or there could be more?
The core of the problem is still pending, which is why exactly did this happen and who is responsible for it? Because that points at governance issues, and governance issues are usually sidelined when things are looking great. People forget about it, but the core for a trust-based institution like a bank to function well, you need good, strong governance. And if it is found in the Grant Thornton report when it comes out that there was a governance problem and that people in the bank were willfully flouting norms, sorry, that is a problem, and that is a real problem that the bank will have to address, and the management will have to address, and the board will have to address.
And GT is something which has been instituted by the Reserve Bank of India.
Correct. So the Reserve Bank of India told the board to do it, and the board appointed GT to come and do it.
Little surprising was one of the reports, and we also I think reported about it, is the kind of derivative positions some of the insiders took on the bank, right? And they squared it up before in March or something, which is
before the announcement.
So, that's something which is also a little worrying in that sense.
Yeah, I mean the people in the bank are playing in derivatives of the bank. I mean that is just a little bit, is it legal or not? I'm not sure. But is it questionable? 100%.
Whether it's right or not, that's a question, right? Simple as that. Okay.
Your view on BSC?
By the way, BSC is completing 150 years, and you have the finance minister talking today.
Yeah, later today.
Covering it in the afternoon. When he says that deposit rates are going to come down, my view is that people will not keep money in savings account at 2.75%.
Correct.
Right? So the money will go to capital markets. And when I say capital market, it's not just the equities, it also means mutual funds and others. In fact, if you look at the recent last 3-4 months data which is coming in, you have ETFs and index funds which are contributing a lot, nearly 1/5 of the funds mobilized, and net inflows are going into these funds. And globally, if you look at, I was looking at the data, Mahima, in last 10 years, the composition of passive funds have doubled from 37 to 69% of the total asset under management held by all funds, right? So passive funds are coming up in a big way, and in India, I think last 3 months we have seen a huge flow coming back. Means the total number of folios have almost doubled in last 1 year itself. That's the kind of thing which is there. So that thing is there, and when you look at BSE, it's very competitively priced. It still till the time NSE doesn't come into the market, it's the only play that you have on the Indian economy and in the stock market, which is there. There is a premium which is given to it. I think they would, at some point in time, it will find a stable price when the second exchange comes into play, which is there. Till then, BSE will have to get its volumes up. F&O volumes have gone up a bit, and there is something which is means if the transaction revenues go up and the profitability goes up, I think they should the fundamentals should catch up with the valuation. But yes, BSE is the only play, and if you have you keep it.
Let me ask you, F&O volumes you said are going up. So are we to see similar kind of speculative?
So no. So let me put it this way. We earlier had each investor investing say 6,000 rupees per trade, right? What the exchanges, stock exchanges and the regulator did was they increased the lot size by 3x or so. So now average ticket size 18,000 हो गया, right? Now that's not enough. But क्या होता है कि वीकली से हम मंथली चले गए.
Correct.
तो जब हम वीकली से मंथली चले गए, जो आपको प्रीमियम आप ऑप्शंस में खेलते हो, वो ऑप्शन पहले 10 रुपये होता था तो 30 रुपये हो गया, या 100 रुपये होता था 300 रुपये हो गया, या 400 रुपये हो गया. और एक्सचेंजेस को फीस उस पे मिलता है,
वॉल्यूम पे
नहीं, वॉल्यूम पे नहीं, प्रीमियम
ऑन द प्रीमियम. ओके.
So the premium has gone up. So if you look at the data, while volumes have crashed 30-40%, and Angel One के numbers yesterday, is the top line, the EBITDA has fallen by 6% or so. Profit has fallen by around 20-30%, which is that it's only on a year on year and QOQ गिरा है. But for exchanges, it's the opposite. The premium turnover is going up, and so the premium turnover is going up. So the transaction revenue for them is going up in that sense. So in the entire game plan, the exchanges are the winners. The stock brokers and discount brokers are the losers there. And the new things which is emerging is the wealth management companies which is there. Your Nuvamas and others of the world who are coming in. So वो है इसका वो we initially thought कि सबके लिए problem होगा, but market is such a unique thing कि आपने इसको adjust किया तो premium went up, and that's what we have seen. और क्या है हमारे पास आज बफेट है क्या?
नहीं, बस that was his question. BSE पे. I think we'll wrap up.
Yes, we should wrap up. I think the last question by Warren Buffett.
Sagility पे.
Sagility. Yeah, it's a good company. Trump tariff is more of a US based company है, इंडिया में नहीं है वो इसका. Sagility was the earlier SR का एक SR का था नहीं, Hinduja Group का जो global.
Okay. Got it. Yeah, I remember the name change.
Name change happened.
Yeah.
So they are entirely US based, like a US TPA, which is they form the backbone between hospitals and doctors and insurance companies. So entirely US based thing. So I don't think they're going to have any impact unless there is a change in the Medicare policy in the US, and then there is something there.
Yeah.
But tariff should not have any impact. So yes, we have I think
come to the end of the questions.
End of the questions, and we have done this 115, and the ending market is 1.5%.
Yes.
And Nifty Bank 2.35%.
Amazing.
बैठे तुम
मैंने चढ़ा दिया.
IT has come down to 0.5. No, it's maintained at 0.5.
2.5% बैंक चल गया है, और Nifty 50 is 1.5%. So we end on that note, and happy Easter.
Thank you so much.
Happy long weekend as well.
Okay, we're done?
Sure.
Sure, yeah. Thank you.